up, weirdos? Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't yet, please do hit that subscribe button, especially if you like spooky stuff. And if you haven't seen yet, I have t-shirts for sale. They say girly gore and it's my face. And if you want to see that, that's all linked down below. But today we're talking about a movie that basically everyone else has already talked about, but you know, just gotta love being late to the game, and that is Bird Box. I actually watched this with my family when I was home for the holidays, which was hilarious to me because my mom hates horror movies, like can't even be around them, can't hear them, doesn't want to talk about them, like hates horror movies. How did I end up this way? I don't know. But since this movie is more of a psychological thriller, she was down to watch it and she actually loved it, and so did I. So this movie is about this evil presence that comes over the earth that if you look at it, you immediately want to commit suicide, which is super scary. It centers around a mother, Sandra Bullock, and her two kids, and it jumps back and forth in time, so you see like when it all sort of first goes down and she is like starting to like learn about how to survive in this world, and then we have the 5 years later when she is with her kids and they're trying to get to a particular safe haven that they will be able to live out their days in not suicide. Just so you know, this is based off a book by Josh Malerman. I have not read it, but I am going to talk about it a little bit at the end of this video, so we'll get there. This movie was directed by Suzanne Bier. Gotta love a female director. She's pretty cool. I actually don't know a lot of her work, but I hope she does more spooky stuff because she's really good. I thought the direction of this film was really spot on. The screenplay was by Eric Heiserer. He's done a lot of horror stuff. He wrote the screenplay for Lights Out from 2016, which is a movie I love. Like, if you haven't seen that one, that is a really that's a good horror movie. I really recommend it. And then he also wrote the script for the Nightmare on Elm Street remake for 2011, which I absolutely hated. Okay, so let's start with what I loved, and I just love the concept of Bird Box. I thought it was really, really cool. The idea that this thing turns into whatever you fear the most. It's so scary. It's like personalized horror, if that makes sense. It also reminds me, because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, it reminds me of the Boggarts. So there are things that like come out of the trunk and it just turns into whatever the person facing it fears the most. So for Harry, it always turns into a Dementor, which is like super embarrassing. And then you have to turn it into something funny via the ridiculous spell. What are we even talking about? We're not talking about Harry Potter, we're talking about Bird Box, and that concept is really cool. And now I want to talk about the cast, because the cast is kind of insane. Like, there are so many famous people in this movie and so many like up and coming about to be really famous people in this movie, which is cool. So I'm just gonna run through them as quickly as possible, but it might take a minute because there's like 1,000 people. Okay, blah blah blah. Sandra Bullock, yes, she is amazing in this movie. I really do like her as an actress. Like, I can't really think of a movie I was like, you sucked in this. But I think in general she's really great in a lot of films, and this movie she like really brings it. Like, she is so cool. And apparently she was like really wanted to be blindfolded like a lot. Like, the director was like, you don't have to, we can like cut little holes so you can see, and she was like, no, I don't want to see. And she actually I watched the interview with her on Ellen, and she answered the question that I was dying to know while I was watching this movie, and I don't know why these questions always come up in my head while I'm watching. I wish I could just stay in the story, but I was like, I bet Sandra Bullock just was like running into everything. And she was. She said she even ran to the camera a couple times because she literally couldn't see, so she was like, whoa! And now we're gonna move it along. So Sarah Paulson, who we of course know from American Horror Story, she apparently was asked by Sandra Bullock, because they worked on Ocean's 8 together, and then Sandra Bullock was like, would you like to play my sister? And Sarah Paulson was like, yes. And so they did this movie together. And then we have John Malkovich from, you know, John Malkovich. And then we have Daniel McDonald from Dumplin', which was a 2018 Netflix film. One of my favorites of the year. I really, really loved it. But she was in that movie, and in this one, she's sort of an up-and-comer. I'm excited about her. And then, of course, we have Lil Rel Howard from Get Out. He's in this movie playing sort of a similar character, but different. I don't know. But he's great. He's just like so funny and wide-eyed and delightful. Just love him. And then we have Trevante Rhodes, who's sort of our leading man. I don't know much of his work. He was in The Predator this year, which I did not see, sorry. But he's really great in this and very muscular. Then we have Rosa Salazar, who is about to be Alita and Alita Battle Angel, that's coming out later this year, which just looks like pretty cool. She like plays a robot. But she's in this movie. We have Jackie Weaver, who gets a couple of really badass moments in Bird Box and is also going to be in the new Grudge movie this year. And then finally, there's probably others that I missed, sorry about it. But then finally we have Machine Gun Kelly, who's actually a rapper who's in this movie. I cannot comment on his music because I have never listened to it, but his acting was, you know, pretty fine. And now let's go ahead and get to the ratings. The first ratings of 2019, I might add. And the scare for this one gets a 3. That's my face. I will say once again, something be able to deeply know my most psychological fears and show it to me, and then I have to immediately kill myself. Like, that is so scary. That is so scary to me. And they build the suspense really, really well in this film, but it is more of a thriller than a horror movie, so the scare for me does get a 3. The gore gets a 3 as well. It's got some really great death scenes, which I will talk about in the spoilers. Cheese, zip 0, zip 0, but this is the emoji just so you can see it. It's me, made out of cheese. But no, 0 for this one. And then overall, it gets a 4. So I obviously really like this movie. I feel like I barely ever give out 5s, and even 4s are kind of weird, but for this one, it gets a 4. And now for the first spoilers of 2019. Get ready, so if you haven't seen this, feel free to click away and come back, or if you don't care, keep watching, you know the drill. Okay, so my favorite death scenes, I have 2 actually that I just have really stuck with me. One is the woman like seeing like her mother or something like that, and then just walking and then stepping into a burning car and just burning to death. Like, that was so dramatic and epic and scary. And then the second one was the woman at the very beginning of the film who's like smashing her own head against the glass. Ugh, like that was like brutal to watch and just epic. And I will say in this one, the scariest scene for me was in the woods where the kids were like, they might take off their blindfolds. Like, you weren't sure if they were going to take off their blindfolds because the demonic force was like telling them to. And I was like on the edge of my seat. Like, that was like the suspense building moment for me. Like, that whole sequence was so well done when they all got separated. That scene, good job. And now I'm going to reveal to you all what would have made this movie a 5 on my channel, and that is something I learned on Twitter. So at the end of the movie, Sandra Bullock finally gets her kids to the safe haven, and it ends up being a sanctuary for blind people. So hello, blind people can't see the scary thing, so they can live just in perfect happiness. But then I posted on Twitter that I had seen it, and Horror Addicts tweeted at me saying that in the book, all these people, not all of them, but a lot of them had actually blinded themselves, and even their children like gouged out their own eyes and their children's eyes so they wouldn't be able to see the monster so they could live in peace. And I was like, whoa, like that for me would have made this movie perfect. Like, honestly, like the extra bit of like sacrifice at the end of this movie would have like really put it out of 5 for me. I did think the ending was fine. Like, I thought it was good. It was definitely hopeful. Like, oh, okay, now they can live in this nice place. But something about that extra bit of sacrifice I would have loved to see. So it does still get a 4 for me, but pretty close to a 5. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Bird Box. Yes, I've heard everyone being like, blah, 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 it's a ripoff of A Quiet Place. I would highly disagree. I think the types of horror are actually pretty different. But let me know down below if you had one that you preferred, if you preferred A Quiet Place to Bird Box or Bird Box to A Quiet Place. Just let me know, I'm curious. And of course, if you want some more ways to hang out with me, just check down in the description box. I have Patreon, Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, all the stuff. You can find me many places on the internet to hang out. And that's it for this video. So have a nice scream. Bye!